Walk up to the first tee at a major championship today, and you will hear something entirely new. For decades, the galleries roared for Phil Mickelson. Fans wore his merchandise, chanted his name, and treated him like the ultimate hero of the sport. Now, when he steps onto the grass, the crowd simply turns around. They face the other way. They stare at the trees. The roaring cheers have been replaced by a cold, absolute silence. This is not just a player losing his swing. This is a fan base actively rejecting a legend during his most emotional public moments. Recently, he took a sudden multi-month break from golf. He released a heartfelt message about needing to be present for a family health matter. When he finally returned, he tried to smile. He gave upbeat speeches about how much he still loves the game. The internet and the galleries did not cheer. They delivered a brutal, coordinated reality check. They reminded him of his exact standing in the modern game. Fans can easily forgive a golfer for losing his speed on the course. Walking away was a business choice the galleries could survive, yet the exact words he used to justify his departure permanently shattered their trust. I think respect matters more than trophies. Do you agree, or is winning the only thing that counts? Tell me below. If you want the real truth about golf drama, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. To understand why the fans rejected his emotional return today, we have to look at the exact moment he first asked them to forgive him. A simple change of employers would have been a major business decision. Many players have switched tours before. The crowd could have accepted a standard contract dispute. They could have understood a desire for a new challenge. What they could not accept was the sheer arrogance of the exit. He did not just walk away quietly, he made sure everyone heard his footsteps. He famously joked about having a private jet fueled up and ready to go. To the everyday golf fan, this was not a clever punchline. It was a direct insult to the people who buy the tickets and watch the broadcasts. Before signing the massive Saudi-backed checks, he gave a podcast interview that changed everything. He called the PGA Tour greedy. He labeled the organization untrustworthy. He threw his former colleagues under the bus to secure his own golden parachute. Die-hard fans grew up watching him fight for the badge on his cap. They believed he loved the history and the traditions of the game. Hearing their hero call the organization a corrupt business just to get a bigger paycheck felt like a personal betrayal. His timing was just as damaging as the statements themselves. He made these comments while the tour was actively trying to survive a severe financial threat. Instead of standing with his peers, he used the chaos to negotiate a better deal for himself. Golf is a sport built on honor and integrity. Players call penalties on themselves when no one is watching. The fans expect the same level of respect off the course. When he attacked the very institution that made him a millionaire, the illusion broke completely. The galleries stopped seeing a charismatic showman. They started seeing a cynical opportunist who only cared about his own bank account. You do not get to take the money, enjoy the fame, and then insult the people who gave it to you. Such a deep betrayal alienated even his closest friends in the media. The locker room turned cold. Players who once looked up to him started avoiding him in the hallways. The damage was done, but the public was about to see an even more painful side of his return. Digging into his private life revealed a much darker reality that the public was about to uncover. Facing the cameras during his recent return, he looked exhausted. Speaking softly about his wife, Amy, he detailed the heavy stress they had been carrying. His goal was to use this deeply personal moment to win back the public's sympathy. He wanted the galleries to feel sorry for him. He wanted them to remember the human being behind the golf clubs. Sympathy never arrived. Instead of pity, the internet exploded with a different kind of energy. Core members of the golf community actively rejected his apology tour. Past mistakes were dragged into the light. Massive checks he cashed were brought up daily. The PGA Tour had just created a new program for returning players, and his name was nowhere on the list. The organization explicitly excluded him from ever coming back. The rules of this new program were very clear. To get back onto the main tour, a player needed to have won a major championship in the last 3 years or maintain a very high world ranking. He did not meet either of those strict requirements. The tour leadership made it clear that the door was closed. Fans made sure he knew his permanent status. Harsh comments flooded his social media pages. Strangers told him he was no longer welcome. Emotional speeches meant nothing when actions spoke so loudly. Moving on without him became the new normal for the golf world. Physical reality, however, held the true measure of their anger. The online hostility was just the beginning of a much larger rejection. His attempt to use a family emergency as a shield failed completely, exposing a permanent exclusion that the organization made final. When he walked onto the first tee at the US Open, the gallery did not boo him. Booing would have required energy. Booing would have meant they still cared enough to react. Instead, they gave him nothing. The silence was deafening. It was a virtual void. You could hear the wind in the pines. You could hear the click of the camera shutters. But when he addressed the ball, the crowd literally turned their backs. They looked at the scoreboards. They looked at their phones. They looked at the sky. They refused to give him the one thing every performer craves: attention. This was not a spontaneous reaction. This was a coordinated decision by thousands of fans who decided he was no longer worth their breath. Think about the history of this sport. Think about the roaring crowds at Augusta when he holed out from the pine straw. Think about the absolute chaos at Hazeltine when he sank that final putt in the Ryder Cup. The fans gave him their voices for 20 years. Taking those voices away was a deliberate, painful choice. The marshals on the course did not even try to encourage the crowd to cheer. They just let the silence hang in the air. It was a physical manifestation of a broken relationship. Older fans in the gallery whispered to each other about the good old days. They remembered when Phil would stop mid-round to sign autographs for kids. They remembered when he would take selfies with fans in the parking lot after a tough loss. Those small moments built a bond that money could never buy. Now those same fans walk past him without making eye contact. The autograph lines that used to stretch for hundreds of yards have disappeared completely. The parking lot interactions are gone. The smiles are gone. What remains is a cold distance that grows wider with every tournament he plays. The fans made their choice, and they are not looking back. The fans were sending a very clear message. They were saying that his past glory did not give him a free pass for his recent behavior. They were showing him that loyalty in golf goes both ways. If you break your promise to the game will break its promise to you. The virtual silence in the grandstands was loud, but it was nothing compared to the private meetings happening off the course. Virtual silence in the grandstands was loud, yet it was nothing compared to the private meetings happening off the course. While the galleries were turning their backs, a much more severe punishment was being decided in private. The final nail in the coffin did not happen on a golf course. It happened behind the closed doors of a prestigious country club. For years, Mickelson was a staple at the Farms Golf Club in San Diego. It was his local sanctuary. It was where he practiced, where he hosted events, and where he felt most at home. The members there knew him better than anyone. They saw him every day. They thought they understood his character. That illusion shattered completely when the club's leadership took drastic action. Recent reports confirmed that the club officially removed him from their membership. They did not just ask him to leave quietly. They forced him out to protect their own reputation. The reason for this extreme measure was not about golf politics. It was not about LIV Golf or the PGA Tour. It was about a severe failure of personal character. Allegations surfaced regarding inappropriate physical contact with a female employee at the club. The details were kept largely private, but the action taken by the club spoke volumes. Country clubs are incredibly protective of their image. They have strict bylaws regarding moral turpitude. They do not remove a 6-time major champion unless the behavior is completely unacceptable. They do not burn a bridge with a global sports icon unless the risk of keeping him is far greater than the cost of losing him. When the golf fans heard about this incident, the remaining sympathy vanished instantly. They could forgive a bad business decision. They could forgive calling the tour greedy. They could even forgive taking Saudi money. But they cannot forgive a lack of basic human respect. The golf community is deeply traditional. It values how you treat the caddies, the volunteers, and the staff. When a player crosses that line, the community closes ranks. The fans realized that the man they cheered for was not just a ruthless businessman, he was someone who allegedly could not control his personal behavior. This revelation changed everything. It took the narrative away from sports and placed it squarely into the realm of personal morality. Forcing him out protected the club's reputation, but the fans removed him from their hearts for a much deeper reason. Following the club incident, his public relations strategy completely collapsed. Usually, a player of his stature would issue a carefully worded apology. He would hire a crisis management team. He would do a sit-down interview to clear the air. None of that happened. His camp went completely dark. There were no statements. There were no denials. There were no explanations. He simply disappeared from the public eye. This silence was interpreted by the fans as an admission of guilt. In the world of professional golf, your reputation is your currency. When you lose it, you lose everything. Sponsors immediately started reviewing the morality clauses in their contracts. These clauses are designed to protect brands from public scandals. A major equipment manufacturer reportedly postponed a new product launch that was supposed to feature his likeness. The financial impact was just beginning, but the social impact was already total. The fans who bought his jerseys stopped wearing them. The kids who wanted to emulate his creative shot-making started looking at other players. The magic of Lefty was dead. Even his fellow LIV players started to distance themselves from the fallout. The guys who took the same checks were now carefully avoiding his name in interviews. They knew the backlash was spreading. They did not want to get pulled into his personal scandals. One prominent LIV player reportedly told a reporter that Phil's situation was a distraction the league did not need right now. The very people he helped recruit to the rival tour were now treating him like a liability. He was completely alone, surrounded by people who only cared about protecting their own careers and their own sponsorships. The isolation was total, both on the course and off it. Financial and social impacts are just beginning, leaving only the harsh reality of a legacy actively dismantled in real time. Financial and social impacts are just beginning, leaving only the harsh reality of a legacy actively dismantled in real time. You cannot erase 6 major championships. You cannot delete the miraculous chip-in at Augusta in 2010. You cannot forget the incredible back nine at Hazeltine in the Ryder Cup. Phil Mickelson is undeniably one of the most talented golfers to ever pick up a club. His short game was pure art. His ability to hit shots from the trees was legendary. For a brief moment in time, he was the people's champion. He was the guy who fought against the robotic, corporate nature of the sport. He was the fun, risky, emotional hero. But legacy in golf is incredibly fragile. It is built on a foundation of honor. When you compromise that foundation, the entire structure collapses. You cannot fix a divot that deep. The golf fan base has a long memory. They remember the heroes, but they also remember the villains. They remember the people who disrespected the game. They remember the people who disrespected the staff. They remember the people who put money above loyalty. Think about the legends who came before him. Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player. They built their legacies on giving back to the game. They treated the fans and the staff with ultimate respect. They understood that they were part of a larger tradition. Phil Mickelson decided that he was bigger than the tradition. He decided that his brand was more important than the game itself. That arrogance is what the fans are truly rejecting. They are not just mad about the money. They are mad about the attitude. They are mad about the lack of gratitude. Personal tragedy aside, this massive fall from grace serves as a warning sign for the entire sport of golf. Personal tragedy aside, this massive fall from grace serves as a warning sign for the entire sport of golf. The PGA Tour has already moved on. The new generation of stars is here. Players like Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy are carrying the torch. They are playing incredible golf, and they are doing it with a level of respect for the game that the fans demand. The Tour survived the LIV golf threat. They restructured their signature events. They found new sponsors. They found new heroes. The sport did not need Phil Mickelson to survive. In fact, the sport seems to be thriving without him. The fans have found new players to cheer for. They have found new personalities to follow. The galleries are loud again, just not for him. Phil is now just a footnote in the modern history of the game. He is a cautionary tale told to young players on the developmental tours. He is the example of what happens when you let your ego and your greed override your respect for the game. Finding new heroes was easy for the tour, leaving only one final question about his ultimate fate. Finding new heroes was easy for the tour, leaving only one final question about his ultimate fate. When Phil Mickelson finally hangs up his clubs for good, there will be no grand farewell tour. There will be no emotional send-off from the galleries. There will be no standing ovations. There will only be the quiet realization that one of the greatest talents in golf history threw it all away. The fans turned their backs because they had no other choice. They could not support someone who disrespected them, their sport, and their traditions. The silence in the grandstands is the final verdict. It is the ultimate rejection. It is the sound of a fan base saying goodbye to a legend who forgot how to be a hero. The scorecard does not care about your bank account. The gallery does not care about your private jet. They only care about your heart. And in the end, Phil Mickelson's heart was not in the right place. The fans saw it. The tour saw it. And now, the whole world knows it. The game of golf moves on, leaving him alone in the silence he created.